Hello and welcome to this presentation on Philippine agricultural policies, specifically Republic Act number 10089. And as stated in its first section, it is also named as the Philippine Rubber Research Institute Act of 2010. It is an act creating the Philippine Rubber Institute to develop the Philippine rubber industry and for other purposes. So let's move on to the background for this Republic Act. The rubber industry is known globally. It has applications in tires, making slippers, and all of that, and it is tied to the global economy. It is an important resource, and for the Philippine setting, in 2020, the volume of rubber produced here is amounted to approximately 422.4 thousand metric tons. In the same year, the production value of rubber in the country amounted to 9.12 billion pesos. So that really makes this a big industry here in the Philippines. This act is a consolidation of Senate Bill number 1651 and House Bill number 6882. It was passed by the Senate and House of Representatives on February 1, 2010 and February 3, 2010. It was it was approved on May 13 by the president of that time, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Prospero C. Nograles, and the Senate President, Juan Ponce Enrile. So, according to Section 2, its declaration of policy, it has the goals to develop self reliant industries effectively controlled by Filipinos. It is also encouraging investments and provides incentives to private enterprises. It promotes employment and livelihood opportunities for the poor, ensure a well-balanced ecology in the use of natural resources, prioritize education and training in science and technology, as well as achieving sustainable development. So let's just go back for a while and know the definition of terms, which can be found in section 3 to help us with the discussion later. So the Philippine Rubber Institute is the main institute for rubber at MSU, Mindanao State University, to be based in the municipality of Naga, the province of Zamboanga, Sibugay, and its satellite units, as may be subsequently established, is to initiate the research and development programs for rubber and to improve quality and increase productivity, especially for the smallholder rubber producers and processors. The rubber tree is the source of natural rubber, and its scientific name is Hevea brasiliensis. Latex is the milky white fluid that is produced by the rubber trees and is the raw material that will be used for manufacture for the products. The smallholder rubber producers are individuals or cooperatives, corporations, who own or cultivate at least 5 hectares of rubber plantation. So at most 5 hectares, yes. And then smallholder rubber processors are those that maintain or operate small scale processing plants for finished or semi finished rubber products, capable of processing not more than 50 metric tons of rubber annually. So the rubber cooperatives, on the other hand, are duly recognized, organized, and registered enterprises collectively owned and operated by groups of rubber products or processors who partake or share among themselves the benefits and profits of their economic ventures. The big holder rubber producers are individuals or cooperatives who cultivate more than 5 hectares of rubber plantation, and then big holder rubber processors are those that are capable of processing more than 50 metric tons of rubber annually compared to the smallholder processors. So Section 4 is for the creation of the Philippine Rubber Research Institute. So, the Philippine Rubber Research Institute is referred to as PRRI under the control and supervision of the Department of Agriculture. It sounds very familiar, just like IRRI, otherwise known as International Rice Research Institute. But this one, however, is solely for the Philippines. For Section 5, what are the powers and functions of the PRRI? So the first one is to propagate and promote the planting, the maintenance, as well as wise utilization of rubber trees as source of latex and finished rubber products. It's also in task to enable rubber producers and processors, especially those small holders, to have access to quality rubber seedlings, modern production techniques, and other support services from production to marketing of rubber produce. So, dili lang siya sa pagtanom, but apil na pod sa pagmarketing and after the product is made. So they are also tasked with undertaking training and capacity building programs for the producers, the processors, and the cooperatives in order to increase production of quality rubber and raise their level of income. They are also tasked with the aid in establishment of village-based rubber enterprises to generate livelihood opportunities and improve general well-being of the large percentage of the workforce in agricultural communities, especially for the rubber. Then promote cooperative development among smallholders and provide them access to resources, technological know-how, as well as decision-making processes for the enhancement of their rubber enterprises and the protection of their welfare. They are also functional in initiating research and development projects on rubber in order to address technology and policy gaps in promoting a robust rubber industry, ensuring standard in production and meeting demands for quality rubber in both domestic and international trade. They could do this through reaching out with universities or other researching bodies. Then they must enter into a memoranda of agreement and receive grants from local and foreign funding agencies through the Department of Agriculture upon the recommendation of the PRRI Advisory Board or through the recommendation of academic boards of satellite units housed in concerned state universities and colleges upon the recommendation of the PRRI Advisory Board. So for Section 6, who will be the executive director of the PRRI and what will the duties be? So the executive director will be responsible for the planning, implementation, and supervision of the programs and activities of the PRRI. The executive director will be appointed by the President of the Philippines for a term of 3 years upon the recommendation of the Department of Agriculture. All other officers and employees shall be appointed by the executive director of the PRRI in accordance with the civil service law. So, dili lang basta-basta kinsa-kinsa lang. They must possess high degree of educational and technical managerial competencies in research and development, as well as of integrity and proven probity in public service. The function and powers of the executive director, stated here in section 7, is to recommend the creation of divisions and sections, including the staffing pattern of the PRRI, recommend to the agriculture secretary the appointments of personnel and consultants, oversee the planning and implementation evaluation of the policies, programs, and projects of the PRRI. The executive director must also consolidate and improve the overall budget of the PRRI and perform other functions assigned by the advisory board. As for Section 8, division chiefs and unit heads. Division chiefs, unit heads, coordinators, project leaders, and other positions in the PRRI shall be recommended by the executive director and appointed by the secretary of the DA. The appointments to these various positions in the PRRI are subject to corresponding qualification standards established by the PRRI and to rules and regulations set by the Civil Service Commission because this is under government. So for Section 9, the composition of the PRRI Advisory Board, there is hereby created an advisory board which is mandated to develop policies and programs aimed at improving the state of technologies needed for the Philippine rubber industry in order to meet global standards for competitiveness and product quality. So, who are the people under this advisory board? The secretary of the DA or his representative as the chairman, the undersecretary of the Department of Agriculture as vice chairman, the executive director of the Bureau of Agricultural Research, the executive director of the Bureau of Plant Industry, the executive director of the PRRI, and one representative from the rubber producers and one representative from rubber processors as members to be appointed by the President of the Philippines upon recommendation of the DA for a term of again 3 years. So these are who they are. As for Section 10, what are their functions and powers? So they're there to formulate policies and initiate programs for the development of the Philippine rubber industry, review and recommend the annual budget. But if you remember, the executive director is the one that approves it. So the advisory board reviews and recommends the annual budget for the PRRI. They are there to evaluate the implementation, efficiency, and effectiveness of the programs and projects of the PRRI and recommend the establishment or abolition of satellite units or branches as may deemed necessary. For Section 11, coordination among the stakeholders of the PRRI and linkages with other research institutions such as government agencies, LGUs, mga other agencies, state universities. I'm not sure if Caraga State University is connected with the PRRI, but for any projects at the moment, but it would be cool if we had projects connected to the PRRI and other research institutions. As for Section 12, their allocation of funds, 40% of the funds allocated under this Act and in subsequent annual appropriation shall be used for personal services and maintenance and operating expenses. 35% for research and development, as well as training and information for everyone involved, and then 25% for seedling propagation and the dispersal of rubber trees for the production and processing of rubber. Then for section 13, there is a required annual report which the PRI shall submit to the office of the President, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. The administration and institutional development of the PRI. It contains the administration and institutional development of the PRII and the progress and programs of the rubber industry and its stakeholders. For section 14 to 17, Section 14, Appropriations. The amount necessary to carry out the provisions of this Act shall be included in the General Appropriations Act of the year following its enactment into law and thereafter. For Section 15, there is a separability clause. If any part, section, or provision of this Act shall be held invalid or unconstitutional, the rest of the provisions shall not be affected thereby. And then for section 16, the repealing clause, all laws, executive orders, rules, and regulations or parts thereof which are inconsistent with this act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. For section 17, effectivity clause, this act shall take effect 15 days from the date of its publication in the official gazette or in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation. This slide is the end of my presentation. As for my own thoughts, I believe that these types of republic acts are important. The creation of institutes for specific parts of the agricultural field here in the Philippines so that each of them can be hands on in creating development, in doing research and supporting the farmers that are in this industry, as well as the corporations, the small or the big ones, and for regulation as well. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and God bless you.